Welcome everybody to our first in what will be a series of side episodes. This is our out of character series where Emma and I talk about whatever we want. And we gave it a name so it sounded more official.
Yeah, instead of talking about things we don't know about, we talk about things that we do know about.
For our first out of character episode, we're going to be talking about something that's near and dear to our hearts since childhood. Disney's The Haunted Mansion, the ride, not the 2003 Eddie Murphy film.
What are you talking about? I love that movie. It's art, Ellie.
Hey, I'm gonna say something controversial.
Okay. Okay, give it to
I
me.
unironically really enjoyed the 2003 Eddie Murphy film, The Haunted Mansion.
I do too.
It's awesome.
It's really good though.
It rocks.
It kind of whips though.
How could you watch it and hate it? It kind of whips though. Is it bad?
Whips.
Sure.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Like
yeah.
Sure, I'll give you that. It's not good. But we're going to jump into the lore of the ride now.
Yes. I'm so excited.
Emma is going to deliver to us a history lesson, a condensed history lesson of the ride.
Yeah, so this is the history of the existence of the Haunted Mansion and how it came to be, like that process.
Okay.
I whipped out my trusty 40th anniversary edition of the Haunted Mansion history book, From the Magic Kingdom to the Movies by Jason Sorrell. Thank you, Jason.
Wow, thank you, Jason.
So yeah, I'm just gonna I won't give a date because I actually don't know when this specific stuff took place.
Okay, so pre-1961.
Pre-1961. Yeah. Okay?
Okay.
Ken Anderson. He was the lead guy on the Haunted Mansion project.
Imagineer.
Yes, he was the Imagineer.
Use his official title. He worked hard for that.
He did. We love Ken. Have you seen Ken? We love him.
I haven't seen pictures of any of these people except for,
that's
the pictures of the guy in the magazine with the Hatbox Ghost, but I do not know who it was.
I'm pretty sure that was Claude.
I don't even know if it was anybody.
That was Claude Coates. Thank you.
Is it
I just know
There's
that.
a guy named Claude?
Yes, I'm going to talk about Claude.
Okay, so Mr. Imagineer Ken Anderson.
Mr. Imagineer Ken Anderson.
Wow.
This is when I know that I'm just gone too far into Haunted Mansion and Disney history is when I'm like, oh, you don't know what Ken Anderson looks like? What do you mean? How have you not seen Ken Anderson? Emma,
I heard
nobody
Ken
has.
Anderson's
It's only
name
you.
for the first time today.
Yeah.
When I was listening to a podcast episode about the Haunted Mansion.
I hate myself. Okay,
so little different.
Ken Anderson.
I hate you too.
So his final design, inspiration for the outside, like the final look of the actual Haunted Mansion, was.
And we're talking about the Disneyland Haunted Mansion,
yes,
right?
Yes, the Disneyland Haunted Mansion. I have nothing. Well,
okay.
I have a little bit about the Disney World, but not really.
We don't care about the Disney World Haunted Mansion. It can get out of here.
I don't care. Get out of here.
Disney World can drop dead. I don't want to hear about
Ellie.
Orlando. Disney World Haunted Mansion holds no candle to Disneyland. Disney World Haunted Mansion is set in New York. Drop dead.
Oh my gosh, I'm gonna vomit. Just for
What's
fun.
haunted about New York? Nothing.
Nothing, honestly. Okay, so Ken Anderson,
anyway.
His final design inspiration was from the Shipley Lydecker House in Baltimore, Maryland. Also from Stanton Hall in Natchez, I hope I said that right, Mississippi. And the Evergreen House, which is now a museum, also in Baltimore, Maryland. The interior inspiration was from Ken Anderson's trip to the Winchester House in San Jose, where...
Oh, fun.
Which is Oh my gosh, so cool. So
Yeah, that's
Sarah
fun.
Winchester, the wife of the creator of the Winchester rifle, she was
My
convinced
mom.
that, yeah, my mom, she was convinced that ghosts
Our
of
biological mother.
our biological mother, Sarah Winchester.
Okay,
Yes.
okay.
So she was convinced that ghosts of the men who were killed by Winchester rifles were going to come and haunt her because her husband died, and I think he was shot by one of his own guns, so that was
Okay,
cool.
that rocks, yeah.
That also is just straight off the top of my head memory, so that could be very wrong, but I like that. So whatever the real story is, it's wrong now.
Yeah, no, that's the legend. A lot of the Sarah Winchester story is very, like, dramatized.
It
so
is.
That's the story that people know.
It's fun.
Is any of it true? I don't know.
I don't know. But
it's really, really fun.
She was convinced that the ghosts of these people were gonna come and, they were out to get her. Because her husband was dead.
Mm-hmm.
And so she was, like, the one thing left that they were out to get. And so a
Right.
psychic told her that she needed to be continuously building her house like a maze so that it would confuse the spirits and it would protect her. So, oh my gosh, look up the Winchester house, pictures of it. It's incredible, it's stunning, it's insane. I love it, I'm obsessed with it.
Huge fan.
Huge fan. So yeah, that's Ken Anderson's inspiration for the exterior and the interior look that he pitched to Walt, and Walt was like, yeah, that's cool, but I don't want it to look old and broken and, like, decayed. Because that's not what his park was, you know? Like, he didn't want it to look dirty, he didn't want it to look run down. Even though you think haunted house, you do think spooky, decayed, old building, he wanted it to look new and pristine and like a nice house. So Ken was like, okay, bud, we'll figure that out. So Walt had Rolly Crump and Yale Gracie. I love them.
Those names sound made up.
They do. Everyone has a made up name.
Those names sound
Ellie,
like...
I'm gonna tell you right now.
They sound like NPCs in a Call of Cthulhu role-playing.
The top 5, the top 5 boys that I'm gonna be talking about. Mark Davis, Claude Coates, X Atencio, which his name is Xavier, but he went by X.
He goes by X, yeah.
Rolly Crump, Yale Gracie, and Ken Anderson. So almost all of those have fake names. So they were in charge of the effects. And they had their own, Rolly and Yale, they basically lived together for these years that they were working on the special effects to put into the Haunted Mansion. At this point, it was still just a vague idea that Walt had, and there was no story. It was literally just, let's make some spooky ghosts. And so that's what they did. So they had their own room where they could just mess around with stuff and build all these different fun little gags and effects, and it was really cool. So here's an excerpt from page 20. It says, Rolly relates one of the humorous side effects of their work. Yale had all his ghosts and magic strewn... Oh yeah, they did magic stuff too. They had, like, magic tricks.
Yes, I do remember reading that a lot of the Haunted Mansion Imagineers were, like, they did, like, magic tricks, like like sleight of hand tricks. So that's fun.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
So,
and that reflects in their work on the Haunted Mansion.
It really does.
Yeah.
Okay, so Yale had all of his ghosts and magic strewn throughout the room. Once we got a call from personnel asking us to leave the lights on because the janitors didn't want to come in if it was dark. Well, we did, but we rigged the room. We put in an infrared beam, and when it was tripped, the room went to black light and all the ghost effects came on. When we came in the next morning, all the effects were running and there was a broom lying in the center of the floor. Personnel called and said, "You'll have to clean up your own room because the janitors won't go in there anymore."
Wow,
That's
their
so
power.
funny.
Oh my gosh.
They're tormenting
That's
their
great.
janitors. I love it. I love them.
That's so funny.
So yes, Rowley and Yale were in charge of illusions. And they had...
Okay.
So they set up a mock walkthrough with all the special effects that they created for Walt, but it ended with the haunted house idea being put into an indefinite hold. Because Walt didn't want a walkthrough attraction, and their big main effect that they had was this ghost captain, and it took 2 to 4 minutes to stage, and that was deemed too long for efficient operation. And it was, but it sounded so cool. What would happen is it would be like dripping water, and then this ghost would appear of like this old sea captain, and there would be water running down and like dripping onto the floor and everything, and he just like appears transparent in front of you with this water effect, and then he would disappear and the water would be gone.
Oh, interesting.
So cool.
Yeah.
But it took too long, and Walt wasn't sure that he wanted to walk through attractions, so... Yeah, and he wasn't a fan of the proposed rundown appearance of the building, which was somehow tied into the effects. I don't remember how. I didn't write it down. My brain went, you'll remember, and I went, okay.
And then, no.
So, Sea Captain. Are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
So here's one of the proposed ideas for the storyline, because even while it was put on this hold, Ken Anderson was still working on a storyline for it, because they needed to have something.
Like a
comprehensive... It couldn't just be, oh yeah, there's a haunted house.
Yeah.
Exactly. So...
Comprehensive plot.
So the whole time that it was on this indefinite hold, Ken was trying to figure out a story for it. So one of the stories that he came up with was... this was his first proposal, was for Captain Gore. So it was this old sea captain who disappeared under mysterious circumstances. But before that, so his name is Bartholomew Gore. He married a girl named Priscilla, and she discovered his identity as a notorious pirate, Black Bart.
Whoa.
And it's believed that he killed her after she found out. It said 2 different things in the book.
He had a wife.
Yes,
okay, so Priscilla.
He had a wife. He killed her.
Awesome.
Because she found out that he was a pirate, so he killed her, and he either bricked her up in a wall in the house, or threw her down a well.
Awesome,
Those were Ken's 2 ideas.
Ken!
I know, you love it. So then she haunted him like none other.
Awesome.
As you would.
Yeah.
As you would. As you should.
As you should.
Your husband kills you, you might as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then he K-worded himself.
Unalived himself.
Himself from the rafters in the attic.
Awesome. Love it.
Yeah. So that's one of the things, and Walt was like, okay, cool. But Ken also had like a bunch of other ideas, so he just like kept like working on these while the project was on hold. So another one was Bloodmere Manor.
Ooh, okay.
So the story was that the house was moved to Disneyland, and they were restoring it, but all the construction work would be destroyed, like, during the night. So they would be restoring the house during the day, and then at night, all the work they did that day would be destroyed.
Okay.
Because of scary ghosts.
Oh!
Because of scary ghosts.
Who could have guessed?
The story was that one of the construction workers got sealed into the wall.
What is it with Ken and walls?
And you could hear...
Ken had 2 ideas.
He had 2 ideas. It was just walls.
Just walls.
And you would hear, like, hammering and banging coming from inside the walls. Okay, so third idea that Ken had was what he called Walt's Place, which I thought was very cute.
That is cute.
So Walt would greet the guests on tape. He would be
okay.
recording. He would greet the guests as they walked in.
Yeah, Walt Disney's new full-time job is standing at the Haunted Mansion greeting guests in person.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay.
So yeah, he would greet them as they walked in, and a lonesome ghost. That's what it was written down
Cute.
as. Was capitalized L, capitalized G, lonesome ghost. Would guide them through the house. And this version featured a bride getting ready and an elaborate wedding celebration. The Haunted Mansion, Ken really just loves to throw sad brides in there, I guess.
Yeah.
Which you will talk about, and I'm very excited.
I will be speaking on sad brides.
You love to see it. So then Walt kind of wasn't a big fan of any of these, and so Ken took a different approach, and he pitched his idea of basing it off of the adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad.
Oh.
Since they already had the, Mr. Toad's Wild Ride.
Oh, okay.
They were doing that, working on that. And so they were like, well, we can do something with Sleepy Hollow as well.
Oh, I would have loved
and
that.
in his pitched idea, there was a party. Get this, it was a wedding party.
Wow!
And the attendees included Dracula, Frankenstein, Great Caesar's ghost, and other monsters. So, like, the Headless Horseman would show up, and you'd just be, like, at this wedding party.
Okay, sorry.
With all these monsters, I guess.
I have to break this down.
Okay.
So, when I think of scary monsters...
Uh-huh.
Maybe the last possible thing I would guess is the ghost of Julius Caesar? Were they, like, obsessed with Rome? What does that even mean?
I reread that line, like, 7 times to make sure that I was actually seeing it and I wasn't hallucinating.
Also...
I was like, why is Caesar there?
Why is Caesar there?
Who got him on the guest list? Who's getting married?
Like he must
I would like to know.
Is Julius Caesar a wedding crasher? Because there's no way that he would be invited to the same party as Dracula.
You know what? I think you might be right.
That is whack.
I think is Julius Caesar a wedding crasher? Absolutely.
First of all, hate that guy. So the fact that he's put on the same pedestal level of Dracula and Frankenstein, who are fictional characters, is just, like, so annoying. Like, I'm so annoyed by that. Second of all, when you said Dracula and Frankenstein, before I processed the whole Julius Caesar thing, all I could think of was Scooby-Doo and the Ghoul School.
I'm gonna tell you right now, I thought the exact same thing when I was reading the book.
No way.
I was like, oh.
Wow, our minds.
Oh, hello.
Yeah, Okay, so Dracula, Frankenstein, and Julius Caesar are at this wedding party. I hate, and the Headless Horseman.
He pops in.
King.
Maybe he's the wedding crasher. Maybe Julius Caesar and the Headless Horseman were crashing the wedding together.
Is the Headless Horseman, to make another comparison, the Taylor Swift Speak Now situation where he rolls up to the club to say, I say no to this holy wedding? Dude, so many fanfic ideas are popping up in my brain right now.
I'm gonna tell you right now, out of all the bits that we've had on this podcast, this is the best one that I have ever heard.
Okay.
Julius Caesar's ghost is a wedding crasher, and the Headless Horseman is Taylor Swift Speak Now.
Okay, here's the best part. In this scenario, get this, the Headless Horseman does not have a head. So, does it sound...
He's holding the little jack-o'-lantern head.
So my two questions was it muffled, like air is coming out of his airway, but there's no words because he doesn't have a mouth, so it's like...
I don't like that you said that.
Or is it like an echoey sound coming out of this hollowed, on-fire pumpkin?
I would rather have that.
Yeah, no, I think
please.
that's more fun anyway, just like visually and dramatic. The Headless Horseman is all about the drama. This man has
Honestly,
no self-control.
he is all about that drama.
Yeah, he's flashy, he's rolling up. Okay. They say speak now or forever hold your peace. And
Right.
the Headless Horseman busts through the door on his horse.
He humps it on his horse, yeah.
Okay, so then what happens next?
So the Headless Horseman pops in, and your tour guide, pretty sure it was still the Lonesome Ghost idea at this point. So the Lonesome Ghost, who maybe we're all wedding crashers.
Oh.
That's probably it. You escape through a secret tunnel through the fireplace.
Hey! Oh!
Mhm. And you just dip out of there so quick.
Wow, yeah, I would also dip. The relationship drama,
I know, seriously.
the tension in the room would be overwhelming. So I too would get out as soon as I can.
There's a fight about to go down.
Yeah. I mean, Julius Caesar's there, so who knows what's about to happen.
Mhm.
Okay.
Cool. So, are you ready? I'm gonna keep going.
Well, yeah, no, keep going.
So 1963 was the proposed opening date. And 1963 rolls around.
Okay.
And the exterior of the mansion was completed. So it's sitting there on that hill. There used to be a cute little park called Magnolia Park.
Oh, that's
But
cute.
now it's this house. With this big iron gate. And it's completely empty. There is nothing inside. They were supposed to open in 1963, and they have nothing. Absolutely nothing.
That's fascinating.
So, it's great for them. So they put a sign outside the gate advertising the mansion as a retirement home for restless spirits, which was very cute.
That is incredibly cute.
They basically made it sound like a country club, which I thought was adorable. So then, the project was put on hold again.
Okay.
Because Walt wanted to turn... So his... Disney Imagineering is now called Walt Disney Imagineering, but at the time it was called WED, which was just Walter Elias Disney, his full name, which is very powerful of him.
Whoa! Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah, so the project was put on hold again to turn WED's resources, including everyone on the Haunted Mansion team, to the 1964 to 1965 New York's World Fair.
Wait, what?
So Walt... Yeah.
They went to the World's Fair?
Yeah, didn't you know this? Oh my gosh, I can't. Ellie, Rolly Crump designed that whole tower that was part of the inspiration for the It's a Small World.
I did not know they went to the World's Fair. No. I didn't know they went to the World's Fair, but I also didn't know that there was a World's Fair happening in the 60s. For some reason, the World's Fair seems like so Roaring 20s
I understand
to me,
that.
like back in the day.
Yeah. So Walt reassigned Ken Anderson to the New York Fair project and assigned Mark Davis and Claude Coates to the Haunted Mansion project. I love them. They're great. They worked on the Pirates of the Caribbean together. Okay. I guess at the time they probably were working on the Pirates of the Caribbean. I don't remember when Pirates opened. I think it was 66, 67. Who's to say? Not me. This is about the Haunted Mansion, not Pirates. Oops. So Mark would focus on the ghostly characters and a variety of gags and scenes for them. And Claude would focus on the interior environments and sets. So let's story time again. In a treatment dated July 27, 1964, Mark developed his own take on the long gestating attraction, replacing the Lonesome Ghost with a disembodied ghost host that would narrate a walking tour of the mansion. The treatment also called for a live but silent butler character who would physically escort guests through scenes that included the elongating room, a clear forerunner for the portrait chamber, or stretching room, The portrait gallery, a room filled with oversized furnishings, paintings, and sculptures, and home of the most dangerous ghost in the mansion, who climbs out of his picture to mingle with guests until he has turned one of them into a ghost.
Okay, that's a lot.
Which is so cool.
Okay.
I love it.
That imagery is genuinely terrifying.
And then a seance room.
Okay.
It's genuinely, if I was at the Haunted Mansion and someone crawled out of a painting and they were like, hey, do you want to be a ghost with me? I would say yes, but I would be scared.
I would be dead before they even spoke to me. That is terrifying.
Oh my goodness. It also had a seance room, which was home of the famous medium Madame Z, which Ellie, you will talk about how Madame Z is no longer Madame Z.
Yeah.
A full-bodied clairvoyant at that point. Again, Ellie will talk about how Madame Z is no longer a full-bodied clairvoyant. A ghost club room, subtitled A Meeting Place for Retired Ghosts.
That's
fulfilling
fun.
Walt's original vision for a mansion, and a room that has a garden view, which is very cute.
That is cute.
The ghost host takes them through. There's a murder of a bride and her fiance, according to the ghost host. And the guests quickly discovered that the most dangerous ghost in the mansion to be none other than the ghost host himself, who materializes from out of the rainstorm raging outside in shades of Rowley and Yale's 1959 mock-up. The ghost host then tells guests that it was in this very room that he murdered the young bride and her beloved, reviving still another original Ken Anderson story element. Guests are directed to safety through a secret panel in a bookshelf by a talking raven. And originally, the raven was going to be the ghost. Well, I mean, at a later point, they wanted the raven to be the ghost host, but they realized that a raven is really small, and with all the effects that they wanted to have, it would have gotten lost in all the chaos, and so the raven is still there in the ride, but it's no longer the ghost host.
Okay.
Mark focused on characters. Claude focused on environment. Walt also brought Ex Atencio, my king, onto the project as the script writer.
Okay.
X did the script writing for the Pirates of the Caribbean ride and the voice acting / sound effects. So Ex Atencio, he did everything when it came to audio, well, almost everything when it came to audio of the Pirates of the Caribbean. So if you go look up, like, he's the voice of the parrot, he did the voices, like, the sound effects of the animals.
Wow.
So when you hear that donkey in that ride, that's X. That's my main man. X is incredible. We love him. He's great. So Walt put him on the Haunted Mansion project as well as a scriptwriter. But X realizes there's no story here yet, so I don't know what to do.
Yeah. It's
so
just an empty house with a vague...
It's just an empty house.
Some ghosts would be fun.
With
like,
some ghosts.
No storyline.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So Rowley and Yale returned to the Haunted Mansion project after the World's Fair, and then the 5 of them, Claude, Mark, Rowley, Yale, and Ken, all pitched their ideas to Walt. So Rowley's pitch, which is my favorite, I love it so much. The Museum of the Weird.
Oh,
you
fun.
love to see it.
Yeah.
So it was a walkthrough attraction that featured a seance room with talking furniture, floating chandeliers, marble busts that followed guests' every movements, and paintings that changed their appearance when you walked by.
Okay.
So Rowley worked hard with the ghost host concept in effort to link the museum to Mark Davis's evolving storyline.
Okay.
And the Museum of the Weird was tossed when they decided it would be a ride-through instead of a walk-through experience, because a lot of Rowley's concepts and designs, like a lot of the things that he wanted to do, would take too long, or it would be one of those things where you have to stop and look at it to appreciate it, but they couldn't do that because that would take too long, so they scrapped his Museum of the Weird idea, but a lot of his concepts and designs made it into the final design of the Haunted Mansion.
Okay, yeah.
So there's a lot of stuff in there when you ride through. There's a lot of Rolly-inspired things. Like, there's a very specific chair that sits next to the clock that strikes 13.
Oh, cool.
The chair with the face, that's Rolly. So construction stopped again.
Again, love it.
For the third time in 1965 because Walt wanted to bring his World Fair shows across the country to be installed at Disneyland. The project stopped again for a fourth time in 1966 when Walt died on December 15th.
Rip.
And that was really sad.
Rip.
That was really sad because Walt Disney Productions lost their founder and their guiding creative force, and he was the visionary who had the final say on everything.
Yeah, literally
so the Haunted
everything.
Mansion project team lost their tiebreaker.
Yikes.
Because they all had conflicting things, and
Right.
Walt was going to be the tiebreaker for everything. He's not there anymore, so he can't do that.
Yeah.
So Mark and Claude were put in charge of the Haunted Mansion project. It's all up to them. They had worked together on the Pirates of the Caribbean, and they worked really well together, and it's this beautiful ride. So Dick Irvine, who was the vice president of WED, he was like, okay, you guys, you do your thing, this will be great. But that actually led to a lot of creative tension and debate over whether the Haunted Mansion should be scary or funny. They couldn't agree on whether it should be scary or funny. Claude wanted scary, and Mark wanted funny and lighthearted. And Mark was able to convince Dick Irvine to turn the Haunted Mansion into more of a comedy than a horror show, which Claude was a little salty about. But their creative differences resulted in two distinct experiences within the ride, so they still made it work.
Okay.
The first half is all about the scary environment, and that was Claude's half, and then the second half is less reliant on set design, and it's filled with Mark's characters and gags.
Okay, yeah.
So, like, once you enter the Great Hall where all the ghosts are dancing, you know, like, that's when it starts to be Mark's vibe. And so that's why the Haunted Mansion doesn't really have a linear storyline, because it's full of characters, scenes, sets, and special effects, and it was X's job to sort it all out and put everything together. So they finally decided on a ride-through attraction using the Omnimover. Oh my goodness, I'm so excited to talk about the Omnimover.
We love the Omnimover.
I love the Omnimover. WED invented the Omnimover ride system from inspiration from the People Mover, also at Disneyland.
We love the People Mover.
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace
I love
to the People Mover.
Yeah, seriously. So the Omnimover, page 32, the Omnimover consists of a train of swiveling clamshell-shaped pods that can spin, turn, and tilt to point the guests in any direction, narrowly focusing their attention just as film directors do with their cameras. Guests would see exactly what the Imagineers wanted them to see, exactly when they wanted them to see it. The new system would also allow Imagineers to send an endless stream of guests through the attraction at a constant rate, meeting Disneyland's capacity requirements and then some. WED copied Adventure Through Inner Space's clamshell pods, painted them black, and dubbed them the Doom Buggies. So
we love the Doom Buggies.
That's the Doom Buggies.
Yeah, okay.
We love the Doom Buggies.
That's very, very fun.
You love to see it. Oh, I also forgot to say that when Rolly came up with the Museum of the Weird and he pitched all this stuff to Walt, all the other Imagineers told him, like, I mean, they weren't mean to him, but they were kind of mean to him and, like,
this is stupid.
Like, bud, all that stuff is so weird, it's so stupid. Like, come on, Walt's not gonna want that. Like, you should be trying to figure something out that you know that he will want. And Rolly was like, I like my idea, shut up. Oh my gosh, I love it, because Rolly was the youngest, and he was the newbie.
Okay.
And so he was expecting for Walt to not really pay attention to his ideas, because everyone else had all these great ideas to pitch to Walt, and he was just expecting it to, like, not end up being his idea. But Walt specifically was like, okay, Rolly, I want to hear what you have to say. I want to see your pitch. Tell me everything about it. Everyone else, shut up. And oh my gosh, I think about that all the time.
Well, and something that I think is really, like, especially interesting about that is that a lot of Rowley's ideas for this, like, the concept of the Museum of the Weird ended up being the queue for the Haunted Mansion, where people spend a lot of time. Sometimes you spend more time in the queue than you do on the actual ride, right?
Yeah, seriously. Rowley's designs were really important.
And they ended up adding to the story of the Haunted Mansion, to the lore itself.
Exactly.
So he did have grand contributions, even if he didn't know it at the time.
Exactly.
Love that.
So, back to the Omni Mover. The write-through decision changed a lot of things, which is why the Museum of the Weird was scrapped. So Rowley and Yale created effects that required guests to stop and watch and then continue, but they needed effects to be constantly running and repeating for every vehicle that passed. So this changed so many things and like messed up a lot of their ideas, because you can't have a sea captain ghost that takes 2 to 4 minutes to set up if you're having people passing by it constantly. Only a few people are going to see it, you know?
Yeah.
So that was hard for them, but you know, they figured it out. Obviously the ride exists, it has fun things in it. But X needed a memorable theme song. That was one of his key things that he needed, like he had done for Pirates of the Caribbean. And so he wrote Grim Grinning Ghosts, which, Ellie, I think you're gonna love this.
I'm ready.
At the time, it was alternatively named The Screaming Song. I don't know why I love that so much.
That makes it sound so much funny. Scarier than it is.
It's The Screaming Song. Grim Grinning Ghosts. No.
The Screaming
Song.
Yeah, Grim Grinning Ghosts
so funny to me.
Is so much better. It's stupid how much better that is. Literally. It is ridiculous how much worse The Screaming Song is as a name.
Yeah, literally.
Okay.
So they needed it to be interesting and not just constantly repeating the same line over and over and over again, because that's almost what Grim Grinning Ghost is just like the same line.
Same line, yeah.
But they put in different arrangements of it to be used throughout the entire ride.
Yes.
And then, so like you have the organ at the beginning when the ghost host is talking over it, you know. And then while they were doing the Grim Grinning Ghost in the graveyard scene, what they would do, this was so cool.
I'm ready.
So they had all these different, you know, like voices. If you listen to the whole thing, it's not the same voices singing the same song. It's a bunch of other ghosts going through. But they did everything. It was X and this guy named Buddy Baker. They did everything they could to give those music cues an even more otherworldly quality, including detuning the instruments, which is standard.
That's cool.
And recording the music backwards.
Really?
They would record the music backwards, and then they would put it into the mix.
Wow.
Which just blew my mind. Oh my gosh,
what was the
so
purpose
cool.
of that? Just to make it sound more discordant?
Yeah, just to make it sound spookier.
That's crazy.
Just to make it sound ghostly.
Yep.
Like,
I'm scared. I'm screaming. I'm screaming. I'm
it's
screaming.
The screaming song.
Yeah. I'm screaming.
I'm screaming.
Okay.
The ghost host. Back to the ghost host. My king.
Yeah.
He was originally a raven, which I already talked about. And They had to scrap the raven. So then he was just a disembodied voice, which he still is today. Good for him. Happy for him. In the end, they still didn't really have a story, because it kept getting scrapped and nothing was working, and the things that they all pitched Walt didn't like, and so they had to figure it out. So X decided to return to Walt's original story idea of a ghost retirement home, purely because for the past 6 years, now it's 1969, for the past 6 years, there's been a sign hanging out on the gate that says that it's a retirement home for ghosts. So he's like, well, I guess it's a retirement home for ghosts. I guess.
At that point, it's like, at that point,
it
park
has
goers
to be.
have been reading that same sign for 6 years. It kind of has
6
to be. You have
years.
solidified
It
and
kinda has
cemented
to
in.
be.
You have cemented in your own lore that you didn't even
Literally.
write yet. So sorry,
Literally.
you have to stick to that storyline.
Yeah, sorry, X. Oopsie.
That is so funny.
Oh
okay.
my goodness. So yeah, so then before it opened, they just claimed that for the past 6 years they had been out traveling and gathering ghosts to come live in their
very fun.
retirement home.
That's
and
very
to come
fun.
stay in the Haunted Mansion. And then it finally opened on August 9th, 1969.
Amazing.
6 years after the original opening date.
Whoops.
We
did it. Yeah, that was a lot. Okay. So,
I'm sweating.
yeah, do you want to okay, that is the history of the creation of the Haunted Mansion, the ride. Now we're going to jump into the lore of the Haunted Mansion to follow that up.
And I'm very excited.
So,
tell me all about it, Ellie.
as Emma said, originally there was no real storyline. It was just this vague concept of a house that's haunted, to kind of fit in with a lot of the popular theme parks at the time. Every theme park had dark rides were really popular, right? So every theme park had some kind of dark ride, whether it was a walk-through ghostly experience or on a track in a cart and you just ride through and, you know, things pop out at you and eerie music plays, right? So eventually, finally, when they settled on this concept of a retirement home for ghosts, they did have the direction.
After 6 years.
Yeah, they forced themselves into a direction by leaving that sign up for so long, which is kind of funny. The writers of the, the ride writers started coming up with all of these characters to fit into these different scenarios. Mark Davis, Ken Anderson, and X Atencio were the three that I read about specifically with the characters that I'm going to talk about.
Yeah.
So
they did character stuff.
Yeah. So when you enter the Haunted Mansion, you go through the queue, which is it's just as good a part of the ride as the ride itself, honestly. It's so good. It sets the atmosphere. Even when you're outside in the hot California sun, you're surrounded by graves that have fun little, death puns on them and stuff. A little pet cemetery.
Which, on those graves, a lot of them are little
references.
Yeah, are for the Imagineers that were on the Haunted Mansion team. So it's like Master Gracie laid to rest. And then for Claude and X and for the whole team.
The funny thing about that is that some of the lore that cropped up about the Haunted Mansion that has since been confirmed as official lore by Disney is because of those gravestones. So yeah, to start off with Master Gracie, named after Yale Gracie, who was brutally murdered, by the way, in the 80s. Do you know how he died? I didn't read about it because I didn't have time, but do you know how he died?
No.
Okay, I'm looking it up right now.
Please look it up right now.
Seriously, Yale Gracie death.
Oh, Yale!
No, he straight up was murdered in 1983. The unsolved murder?
He was murdered?
Oh! Okay, we have to talk about this. Oh my gosh. Okay, pause on the Haunted Mansion. You've got to be kidding me.
Are you kidding me?
I'm going to pass out. Okay. Holy cow. So this is from the website. Okay, this is from the website, themurdersquad.com.
Aw.
This is absolutely bonkers. Okay.
Please, I need to know.
On September 5th, 1983 at 2:30 a.m., Yale Gracie and his wife were asleep in their cabana at Bel Air Bay Club on Pacific Coast Highway when an intruder came in. So they weren't even at home. They were, like, at their vacation condo or whatever.
No!
The offender shot both Yale and his wife.
No!
Yale was killed, but his wife survived. The working theory is the offender was a transient looking for money or drugs. This has never been confirmed, and the case remains unsolved.
Why am I crying?
Bro! What the frick? Okay, so what the heck? I will say, most of my information...
This man is so important to my life, and I just found out he was brutally murdered.
Dude, he was shot to death on vacation in his sleep.
I love Yale Gracie.
No, I'm happy for you. I mean, I'm sad for you because you just been I didn't know you didn't know. Sorry.
No, I didn't know. I'm sweating.
But most of my information on the Haunted Mansion comes from 2 websites. One of them, doombuggies.com. If you haven't, like, if you're a Disney fan and you have not just completely immersed yourself in the glory that is doombuggies.com, I was obsessed with this website when I was in middle school and continue to be excited about it today. It has everything.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little difficult to navigate because it's very, like, it's an old site. It's still running on, like, old HTML, but it's still active today.
And they have a podcast, don't they?
They have a podcast, the Doom Buggies podcast. It's very fun. I was listening to an episode earlier. But they have everything about the lore of the Haunted Mansion, the creation of the ride that Emma just broke down for us. And they also, you can take a, like, written tour of the Haunted Mansion with, like, photos and stuff of each room. And it has, like, pictures of the, like, queue signs, a map of the ride, pictures of the posters, and some of the concept art. It's crazy. So it's a tour of the Haunted Mansion, but it goes behind the scenes on each room and each... It's great. Huge fan. Please check out Doom... This is not sponsored. Doombuggies.com, please sponsor us. The other blog that I took a lot of my information from is longforgottenhauntedmansion.blogspot.com, a blog that is also still active in 2020. He posts almost monthly, which is very cool.
Good for him.
Yeah, but that blog is also very fun, and it goes into, like, his personal opinions on different Haunted Mansion stuff, but it also covers, like, public opinion on Haunted Mansion, like, everything, which I think is very fun.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, his blog has a more personal touch, where Doom Buggies is a lot more straightforward with the facts and, like, also reporting on controversy. Right. Yeah. So, because Yale Gracie's gravestone, and the gravestone was placed long before his death, right? Ammon was like, that's in poor taste. I was like, no. It was when he was alive, as a tribute to the work he did on the ride. Not, he died, so they decided to put his like, a fake gravestone in. Yeah. No.
Yikes. Yeah.
So his gravestone was there with his name on it, and they, like, referred to him as Master Gracie, and people interpreted that as meaning Master of the House. That isn't necessarily what they meant. I mean, it could have been, like, a member of the Gracie family, but Master could have also meant too young to be called Mister, so, like, a young, person. But regardless, over time, having that as such an iconic part of the queue, people just kind of latched onto the idea of the Gracie family or Master Gracie being the owner of the house, and that kind of solidified itself into fan lore, and eventually Disney just adopted that. So Master Gracie as a character, there is a portrait of him in the gallery section of the mansion, which is part of the queue that you walk through after the stretching room elevators take you down into the actual ride. You walk through a hallway that's like a portrait gallery before you get to the actual Doom buggy where you load on and, like, you know, you're in the ride. It's a very stately painted portrait of him looking, you know, stoic, but also kind of romantic. It's a very, like, romantic, like, 1800s, like, Victorian style portrait. And as all the portraits do in the gallery, they change with the lightning strikes outside, right?
Mm-hmm.
His portrait changes into a very ghoulish skeletal figure with, like, you know, a dark background, and it's very creepy. So that's Master Gracie. I always thought, and I don't know why I thought this, but I always assumed that when you're in the stretching room, the body hanging from the ceiling that you see when the lightning strikes was Master Gracie, and, like, he killed himself. He hung himself. But there's no real, like,
yeah.
I don't know where I got that from.
It's
but I always assumed that was him.
I have always thought.
However, it is the ghost host.
It's the ghost host.
Because he says to find a way out. You know.
Yeah, you have to find a way out.
I'll get into it.
Okay.
That's all I have on Gracie, I guess. The Gracie family is referenced in external Haunted Mansion content. So there was, like, a comic series that Disney did. There's audio drama kind of things and, like, a children's storybook. But in the actual ride, not really mentioned at all. When you're in the stretching room, you are introduced to the ghost host, who, as Emma said, is a disembodied spirit. You never see him in physical form because he technically doesn't have one. Originally, he was gonna be shown as, like, a raven, or, like, you know, a ghost, like a physical humanoid ghost coming out of a portrait, or following guests around, or a shadowy figure that they see, like, in the background of stuff. But they nixed all that. He's just a disembodied voice now, which I think is very fun. His body is the one that you see hanging from the ceiling of the stretching room. You know, so your goal is to find a way out of the Haunted Mansion, and he's like, there's always my way, and then lightning strikes and you see a body hanging. It's like, ah! There's, like, a scream
all
and
creepy.
Yeah, and a thud, and it's awesome. So that's the ghost host.
My favorite part of the stretching room is when he says there's always my way out and the lights go out, right? And then our father would high-pitched scream. He would do the fun little...
He always does the little high-pitched scream.
Every time.
Thanks, Reed.
Every time.
We love it.
Thanks, Reed. Every time.
The other thing I was going to say that I didn't know about the ghost host until I was brushing up on my lore today. There is a portrait of him in, not the gallery, but in the, what do they call it? The corridors, which is, like, the hall of doors when you're in your doom buggy.
I forgot to talk about the hall of doors, Ellie.
Emma, that's, like, the best part. Okay, talk about the Hall of Doors,
okay.
You silly goose.
The Hall of Doors. I know, seriously, I was so excited to talk about it.
Silly goose. All right, go for it.
So, everyone knows, well, I mean, maybe not everyone, but the very, very popular show, The Haunting of Hill House, everyone knows her. Season 2 just dropped. It's very good so far. Is based off of a book by Shirley Jackson. It is called The Haunting. There's a movie.
Well, there's multiple.
That's true. The remake is gross, so don't even bother. The first movie in 1963, there is a corridor of doors, and the two of the characters are walking through the corridor of doors, and the doorknobs are rattling, and there's banging on the doors, and one door is breathing. So cool. Walt Disney saw that and he went, I want that. So he put that in his Haunted Mansion. As far as I'm aware, I don't know if the breathing door effect is still in effect.
It is. It absolutely is.
It is?
Why
okay,
wouldn't it
every
be?
time that I went on the Haunted Mansion,
Buddy,
I always keep a lookout and I
wrong-o.
didn't see it breathing.
I'm sorry that you can't see.
Yeah, I can't see. I don't have eyes. I can't see.
Last time I was at Disney, which was... We went to
We were all there
Disneyland together twice. So we went in 2017, and then we went again...
2019.
Was it 2019? Okay, yeah. So...
It was 2019.
A summer and a half ago, we went to Disneyland. Okay, anyway, I cried on the Guardians of the Galaxy Tower of Terror because it was the worst thing that's ever happened to me.
It was hilarious.
I got cancer.
You almost ripped my... Oh my gosh.
But, like, also the Tower of Terror.
Almost ripped my hand.
Yeah, dude, I grabbed your thigh so hard I thought I was gonna snap your leg off. Sorry.
Dude, I thought you were about to just rip a hole in the fabric of my jeans.
I was about to rip a hole in the fabric of reality by how hard I was trying to mentally escape that ride.
That's understandable.
Dude,
I did not. Ride, though. I hate drop rides. But
no, I do too.
was...
Look, I'm glad I did it just so I could say that I did it. But now I forever have a photo of us on that ride, and I'm like full body
and
sobbing, like tears down my face, and the little girl sitting in front of me is like laughing, and I felt like an idiot. Yeah, what's your question?
That's so good. Okay, here's my question.
I'm ready.
With the Tower of Terror versus Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout, Tower of Terror stopped and dropped, while Guardians of the Galaxy, it does the little bobbing thing. Which one's
Galaxy, worse? The bobbing? Oh gosh, no. Which one's worse? They're both bad.
They're both bad. I would rather have the bobbing.
I have ridden Tower of Terror before the Guardians of the Galaxy existed. I rode Tower of Terror twice in my entire life. Once at California Adventure and once when we went to Disney World when I was 8 years old. And it was the worst experience. I have nightmares about drop rides still in my adult years. I am 25 years old. Before Guardians of the Galaxy, it had been 16 years since I'd been on a drop ride, and I still had nightmares about being on the Tower of Terror but not being strapped down to anything. So I would fly up as the floor dropped out underneath me, and then I would I was trying to grip onto something so I wouldn't land really hard and get shoved back up. Anyway,
I will say that is how I remember experiencing the ride for the first time.
That's literally...
When I was a small child and I wanted to ride the Tower of Terror, I swear on my life there was no seatbelt. I swear on my life.
Dude, okay, well, there was. I don't know what world
Ellie,
you're living in.
My baby brain, it's my baby brain, where I was like,
it's because you're a big stupid baby. Old. Yeah, no, you were a fetus and you were riding the Tower of Terror.
I was
Yeah. Anyway, the bobbing is horrific. The stopping is just as bad because then it's more time before I can get off the freaking ride. As long as it's bobbing, I'm like, all right, we're getting there. We're almost done. But it doesn't stop. It just keeps going. You bob a couple times and you hang there. And then the doors open and you see the Guardians of the Galaxy and they're like, we're gonna save ya, and then they don't. For another excruciating 3 minutes or whatever. I thought I was gonna die.
I like the bobbing better because if it stops, I don't know if it's gonna keep going.
Exactly.
At least when it was bobbing, I'm like, okay, we're still in the moment. I'm still scared. This is all bad.
But the stopping, it's the anticipation. Yeah, I hate that.
It's the anticipation.
The Tower of Terror it doesn't fall with gravity. It pulls you down on the fancy pulley system.
It's faster than gravity.
Yeah, so you're going faster than falling. And I decide to pass away.
Bad.
I decide to pass away. There's literally nothing good about it.
I will simply pass away.
Who decided this was a cool idea? Walt Disney.
Who likes that?
Well, he was dead long before the Tower of Terror.
Yeah, I was going to say it definitely
Whoever
wasn't
came
Walt.
up with that is dead to me. It's over. Anyway, back to the Haunted Mansion. After the whole door situation, when Walt saw that breathing door in the 1963 film The Haunting, he was like, that's for me. So he took the
That's
idea
for me.
and he wanted to implement it into that chamber hallway. And it's very
Which,
fun.
I gotta say, The Haunting is one of my favorite classic horror movies.
I am so happy for you. I haven't seen it, and
Everyone's gotta watch it.
Okay.
Go watch it.
Well, this podcast episode is not sponsored by Shirley Jackson, but ma'am, we're waiting. Anyway.
We're here and we're waiting.
So the door hallway has a bunch of doors that one of them breathes.
Corridor of doors.
One of them, a lot of them, it's just like pounding and knocking sounds. The doorknobs are jiggling from the inside and you can't see what's on the other side. It's very fun. It's very spooky.
Yeah, it's very unsettling.
But in that hallway, there are portraits on the wall, like a ton of them. There was one portrait added that was added more recently, and by recently I mean like a long time. I don't know when. Prior to 2007.
Okay.
The fans refer to these portraits as the Sinister 11. There's no history of like where the origin of that name is from. Like, we just don't know where that term
That's
came
very
from.
interesting.
But people who are big Haunted Mansion stans refer to it as the Sinister 11 because there's 11 portraits of these very spooky people, and most of the portraits were inspired by sketches done by Mark Davis for Haunted Mansion characters that he had come up with when they were still working on the ride. The cool thing about these is that the eyes were cut out of the original portraits, and the eyeballs behind them were set behind the plane of the painting and then backlit, which makes it look like the eyes are following you, right? But the newer portraits after the 2006 and 2007, 2007 was a Haunted Mansion overhaul. 2006 was when just the attic was renovated, and I'll get into that later. But in 2007, they updated the portraits, and they're all digitally animated now. And they look great. Some of the digital stuff in the Haunted Mansion I'm conflicted on, but the hallway looks awesome. But there is a portrait in that hallway that is attributed to the ghost host before he died. The reason that people think the portrait in the corridor of doors is the ghost host is because the hanging body in the stretching room is wearing the same suit as the person is painted wearing in that portrait.
Ooh.
Which is really interesting. The portrait is referred to as Hatchet Man because he has a noose around his neck and is holding a hatchet. Yeah, it's cute. It's fun. It's a fun nickname. So that's kind of fun, like, deeper lore. It's just like a little Easter egg of like, hey, this is, you know. And it hasn't been like officially confirmed like, yes, that's the ghost host, because a lot of stuff in the Haunted Mansion is just like visual gags and like little references. But it is a fun connection. Moving further into the Haunted Mansion, the first place you go is the seance room, which is one of my favorites.
I love it.
You've got a big circular, like, stage, basically, up against the back wall, and the doom buggies face it and move around it. In the center, on a table, is our girl, Madame Leota.
We love
Madame Leota. So she is a disembodied head floating in a crystal ball. The history of Madame Leota, it's another one of those things where there's just like some canon information that the original writers were like, this would be fun, but later lore is really like, I don't know, there's a bunch of different things that, you know, it could be. So there's some conflicting stuff over like her backstory. But for a lot of these, I just wrote down what I consider to be as canon as possible to the original Haunted Mansion ride. She was originally known as Madame Z. She didn't have, like... it's a little more mysterious. And I think a little racist. But that's a whole other thing. She is a Romani character. That's what her kind of, like, non-canon lore, but also in Norland Square at Disneyland, they put out a cart that is supposed to be, like, hers, and so it's very implied that she is, like, a traveling Romani medium.
Yeah.
So that's something. But after they cast...
And that was...
Oh, yes.
Another one of Rowley's ideas was
Thank
for
you,
the
Rowley.
Museum of the Weird. He, in one of his designs, was to have a wagon out front with ghosts and, like, stuff would, you know, happen. And magic. Scary ghosts.
Yeah,
This, like,
scary ghosts.
Traveling wagon.
Yeah. Something interesting about that is I fully do not remember that being there. If you held a gun to my head and asked me where that, like, traveling caravan cart is, you would have to shoot me. Because I seriously don't
and then
know.
They replaced it with the hearse.
Oh, did they?
With
Oh, I never read that. But that with the invisible horse.
Horses.
Yeah, that's fun. Okay, well that makes more sense.
Well, okay, let me clarify really fast in case I'm wrong. That is from my memory. I did not read specifically about that, but I know that there was a wagon. It did exist.
Yeah, it might be in New Orleans
There is
Square,
no longer a wagon, I don't think.
Okay, if anyone is, like, a Disney buff and knows this off the top of their head, please let us know, because
And don't kill me.
I thought I was
being
going
wrong.
insane, because I was like, what wagon are they talking about? Like, where have I been? But yes, so in life, Madame Leota was a medium who was in love with Master Gracie, whose first name also is conflicting. Some people refer to him as, like, Edward, I think.
No, his first name is Master. It's Master
Gracie. This is a King Bradley situation.
Mr. Master Gracie.
Mr. Master
It
Gracie.
is a King Bradley
situation. This is a King Bradley situation, yeah.
Führer King Bradley.
Yeah. So Madame Leota loved Master Gracie, but he was married, right? He was married, and so she tricked his first wife, Lillian, into the tightrope act that you see in the stretching portrait, where she's on a tightrope over an alligator in a swamp about to eat her.
Which was my phone case for
a long time. Yeah. And she tragically passed away from that stunt.
Which, I gotta say, just because there's a goalie doesn't mean you can't score. That's really what Leota said.
No, she said there will be no goalie so that I can score. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Lillian died, rip in peace. But then she basically magic manipulated Gracie into marrying again this woman named Emily to get more money, I think, because she worked at Gracie Manor, right? She worked at the Haunted Mansion. But she didn't want any more women in the way, so after they got Emily's money, she tricked Emily and locked her in a trunk in the attic. No one knew what happened to her. Now, this ties into the Bride in the Attic story, which also ties into the Captain Gore storyline that was originally written.
Yes.
There's a lot here, but regardless, Leota killed all of Gracie's wives out of jealousy, which, you know, I love a good misogynistic women be crazy storyline, but I do love Madame Leota as a character. I think she's really fun.
Yeah, I love her.
So she then cast a spell to imprison Gracie because he didn't return her, you know, feelings. But the spell that she cast to imprison him backfired, and she therefore trapped herself in the crystal ball She's still very
That's a
powerful
rough life,
medium, though not
dude.
as powerful as she was when she was alive. But yeah, so she just vibes in this seance room in the mansion, which is really fun.
As I would love to.
Yeah, do you have any tech stuff you want to talk about for the seance room?
Yes. So there's some stuff about the Haunted Mansion that I was debating saying or not, but I don't want to fully spoil the magic, scary magic for some people, so I won't say some stuff about it, about the Haunted Mansion in general. With Leota, Madame Leota is her voice and face, original face. Her face has somewhat changed.
Yeah.
By a woman named Leota Toombs,
which is where
is epic. A powerful name.
Epic.
Powerful name.
Epic gamer
Leota
moment.
Tombs? Are you kidding me?
Bro, are you kidding
haunted.
me? There's literally nothing better for someone doing voice work for the Haunted Mansion. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But once they cast Miss Leota Tombs, again, epic name, they renamed her Madame Leota, which I think is very fitting and like for just like the vibe of the mansion. I don't know. It's delightful.
It is.
So I don't know. I think she's a really fun character when it comes to the visual aspects of the ride itself. It is
I agree.
So cool to see in person. I did not really like her updated technology the first time they updated it, and then I think they updated her again and it was better. But that weird transition from like the reel on the looping reel of film going to like digital, it just did not look good in my opinion.
I personally, hot take, I think that projected faces onto animatronics gives a lot more possibility, but I just don't like it.
But also do better. It just looks so...
Because, like, have you seen Buzz Lightyear?
Bro! Buzz Lightyear...
That's all I gotta say. Buzz Lightyear...
When the lights are off, terrifying.
Oh, when the lights... Yeah.
When his, like, face doesn't light up anymore, it's haunting because it's just, like, it's plain... Haunting. It's the shape of his head, but it's completely, like...
There's nothing
You know,
there.
It's like a gray screen. It's terrifying. But when it's lit up, I think it looks great. Is that what or are you insinuating that it looks garbage?
I don't want to say it looks garbage.
Or is it just weird to you?
I don't like it. There are some characters where I think it looks good. A lot of people don't like, in the Frozen ride at Epcot, they don't like the projected faces on those characters. I think it looks good on all of them, except for Kristoff looks a little funky. I don't know. I think that projected faces have, like, they give so much possibility, but I don't like the way that they look. Yeah. You know, I can tell that it's gonna get better in the future.
It's gonna get better, yeah. Well, it already has, but some of it is still not quite there. So, yeah, I'll talk about that more when we get to the bride. But, yeah.
For sure.
So Madame Leota's, like, updated tech, I still don't love it, but I think the other visuals in that room are very fun. You've got this kind of, like, swirling ectoplasm-looking lights in the original room design, because a lot of the visual... I don't want to call them gags. A lot of the illusions on the ride are based off of faked ghost portraits from the 1800s when photography was new. A lot of the lore and architecture and things like that is also based on, like, Victorian times, which I think is really interesting. So the whole Madame Leota thing itself, with her being, like, a medium and doing seances and reading fortunes and things like that, is based on, like, traveling groups that did that in America, which I think is another just kind of, like, fun. Like, they made it very Americana in its own way. But anyway, Madame Leota.
Love her.
That's her. Moving on. We'll keep some of the ride the illusion technology a big secret. If you want to read about it though, Doom Buggies has a whole breakdown of every trick and like the Pepper's Ghost effect and stuff like that. It's tight.
I love Pepper's Ghost.
Yeah, I'm gonna get the characters I don't care about as much out of the way. I was gonna talk about the caretaker, but there was nothing interesting about him, so sorry. I thought there was some cool lore. Nope, there's literally nothing.
Nah, he's just a dude with a dog.
Yeah, the graveyard busts, I don't know if you have anything interesting to say about them, but again, there's no real lore. It's just like fun. They are cool. In the graveyard, it's cool, it's fun, but
they're cool.
There's nothing really there.
Actually, I do have one fun thing to say. These are the singing busts.
Yeah, so after, you're about, like, near the end of the ride is the graveyard scene. Very fun. There are these 5 busts on the right side of the track that you turn to at one point, and they have faces projected on them of the original people that sang for them, singing Grim Grinning Ghosts.
Yep.
They're called the Phantom 5 is their like official name, which is very fun.
Very, very fun. So something I love about them, when they had to do that because it was like motion capture just for their faces, when people talk and when you sing, you move your head.
Yeah.
That's what you do. They couldn't move their head. So they put their heads in this little like cushioned box thing to keep them from moving, and so they just really had to stress their facial expressions because they couldn't like move around like you would if you were
actually
singing like a normal person. So it was really funny. Seeing pictures of it's very fun.
That's delightful, yeah. And so the facial recordings that they have in the graveyard still today are the originals from the 60s, which is awesome. Oh, I guess I don't know if it's from the 60s because I don't know when they added the busts. Is that from the original ride?
I'm pretty sure.
Okay, because there's a lot of stuff that they added later.
Yeah. There is a conspiracy or a theory or whatever. Ooh. People think that one of the 5 is Walt Disney because he vaguely resembles him. It's not.
It's not. It does vaguely resemble him if you think all white men with mustaches from the 60s look exactly the same. Which hey, valid.
I won't say they don't.
Yeah, I'm not going to tell you you're wrong, but he is not Walt Disney. Boom. Got him. All right.
Boom.
Now, on to the most research that I did because it is truly my favorite part of the Haunted Mansion. And I'm also going to talk about some controversy.
Okay.
Whoa. Apparently people have very strong opinions about the Haunted Mansion.
Interesting.
Which I guess I should have expected. We're talking about Disney fans.
That's true.
So I should have expected that, but I was surprised. Alright, so the attic scene. In the Haunted Mansion, you go up into the attic of the house. The attic scene has changed significantly multiple times since its original installation when the ride was built. Okay? So you go up into the attic, and originally it was pretty empty. It's just made to look like a spooky attic with like creaking wood and like the, like windows well, there weren't windows. It was very dimly lit. There was it's called a Batmobile. That's literally what they called it. It's a mobile in the ceiling, that like spun around with hanging bats on it. And then, the audio of like bats squeaking or whatever.
So funny.
Which is very fun. They had to take it out later when they were doing renovations because it just didn't fit with the other stuff that they wanted to put in. Like physically it did not fit. So yeah, originally it was pretty bare. But the pinnacles of the original attic were 2 characters that are apparently controversial. The first character, I'm going to talk about her first, the bride.
Ugh.
In the original Haunted Mansion.
I love her.
The original concept, like her lore, was very vague. She was just kind of there to look spooky.
Mm-hmm.
So, originally, her character design is what's referred to as a corpse bride, where she had very ghoulish features, like haunting, so she looked almost skeletal.
Yeah.
The room was so dark that you couldn't really see it, but the reason it was so dark is because she had a light up beating heart in her chest, in her torso, that, like, pumped and you could hear it beating, and that was like the whole gag for her. But she was wearing a veil, and she was holding a candle, and she had a bouquet of roses and was wearing a wedding dress, so she's very obviously supposed to be a bride. But her purpose there was really vague, because it's like, she's not making any sound. Is she forlorn and tragic? Is she some kind of spooky ghost? Like, are we supposed to be scared of her? Is she threatening? Not clear at all, because they didn't write anything for her. She's just there.
Yeah. Ken Anderson, for almost all of his pitches, had a bride.
What's this? Walls and brides.
Walls and brides.
He had two ideas, and he
Brides
stuck
and
with them.
walls.
Which,
He
hey,
really did.
the bride idea stuck, and it's still a thing, which is kind of fun. So thanks, Ken.
And I believe in the graveyard there is someone sealing themselves into a tomb.
Oh, yes, there is. Someone sealing themselves. Their arm is sticking out, and they're
And they've got
holding
the
up
little
the thing of the cement. Yeah. I totally forgot about that. So, yeah, okay, so Ken got his two ideas in. I'm happy for him.
Me too.
Congrats to Ken. So, after several updates, the bride has been updated multiple times. Now, I remember the bride before the big controversial 2006 update. She was very scary, in my child brain opinion. Very spooky. But the update that I remember before the big 2006 update of the attic, where in 2006 they overhauled that entire section. So they like closed down the haunted mansion, redid the entire attic, and then brought it back, baby. But
nice.
The bride, please look up pictures. Both Doom Buggies and Long Forgotten Haunted Mansion have so much on the history of the bride and like all of her different versions, and it's just
it's
love
delightful. The bride.
Yeah, it's so cool to see like how they changed her over time. A lot of those changes people were not super happy with, which is just so funny to me. But her original design was a combination of Ken Anderson's character design called that he referred to as the candle holder. She wasn't a bride originally. The bride character was a separate thing that he proposed. The corpse bride was his idea. But his other idea for a ghost character was the candle holder, that was just a woman in a dress on a stairway holding a candle, and it was creepy. That was pretty much it.
Yeah, you love to see
it. The art for it, I love to see it too. The art for it is very interesting, and it's actually reminiscent to me of the floating candle in the endless hallway, which is kind of cool. But then they combined that and the corpse bride concept with Mark Davis's character that was referred to as the moving lights ghost, because it was like a semi-translucent female figure. Okay, I think she's wearing a dress technically, but that was the concept of the beating heart inside the chest that you could see, and there were other lights, I think, moving through her. That's what the sketch looked like. It was not super clear because there was no written explanation. It was just like, here's this, and so they referred to it as the moving lights. So that's what the bride is the original bride is a combination of those three things, which is really fun. So then they updated her, and she had very dark, like, her body was basically painted black. At Disney World, it was painted a very dark, like, sickly looking greenish blue. Almost looks black, but it's like, it's very eerie, but it's a little bit lighter than black, so you could still see her facial features. I think it's creepier than the, like, darker bride.
Interesting.
But the reason that she was painted black is her dress was, so she had the white wedding dress and the veil,
Mm-hmm.
but her eyes glowed. And so in the dark, all you could see were these glowing eyes behind a veil with the candle. And I think it's very creepy.
It is very creepy.
Yeah, so that's the bride, but sometime between 1969 and 2006, she had, like, I think 1 or 2 updates between those times. They were experimenting with different technology of how to make her scarier. I don't know how successful they were every time, but that memory of her with the glowing eyes and the beating heart and everything, creepy. In that update, also, they added a little bit more to make it less vague, where she says in an almost mocking tone, "I do." That was where that audio came from. And then the sound of the beating heart. That time, they also added the phantom pianist, which is still there. And oh my gosh, that's one of my favorites. It's a piano that's playing itself, and there's no one sitting in front of it, but there's a spotlight on it. And there's a shadow against the wall that's, like, projected onto the wall that makes it look like someone's sitting there. Delightful.
So cool. I love it.
Wonderful trick. Yeah, they did a great job. So, they added the piano that's playing a kind of off-kilter minor chord, "Here Comes the Bride." And then her saying, "I do," like in a kind of, again, it seems like a vaguely mocking tone, so some people assumed, like, she's supposed to be kind of a villain character. Right. But then the very controversial 2006 update, they added actual lore to the bride through visual storytelling, environmental storytelling in the attic. They gave her a name, Constance Hatchaway. I've always known her as that. I don't know where her last name actually shows up. I don't know if it shows up in the attic or if that's outside lore. It's canon.
It's outside lore. It's canon, but
it's canon.
I don't think it's in the ride.
I don't think it shows up in the ride, but her name Constance does show up. She was given lore because they wanted to connect her. They tried to connect her to the stretching room portrait of the old woman with the rose sitting on her husband's tombstone, and his bust has an axe in its head, implying that she killed him. It's still unclear how well that works because it kind of doesn't. I mean, unless she died and her ghost is the young version of herself, which is, that's valid. Like, you could argue that.
I could.
But a lot of people were upset. A lot of people were upset at that connection because they were like, that doesn't make any sense.
Don't really care about that connection, but also I like the idea of dying and I get to choose what age my ghost is.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
So I'll roll with it. Thank you, Disney.
Yeah, the reason that they, like, connect that is, one, the rose, Constance's portrait in the attic, she is holding a rose in a very similar pose, and it's the same flower. It's, like, obviously a reference to that portrait in the stretching room.
Right.
And the big kicker, you see through the attic 4 or 5 portraits of her with a husband, and as you ride past them, the portrait changes to where the husband's head is gone. Which is very fun. So she's known as the Black Widow Bride. Again, that's, like, official title. And then you've still got the phantom pianist playing Here Comes the Bride in a minor key, very, like, you know, out of tune piano. And then you get to the end of the attic, and there she is, and they did that thing where they digitized her face and projected it onto a blank mannequin, and I hate it. I think it looks bad.
But it's not just her face.
Oh, it's her
whole
also.
torso. Like, it's basically her whole torso. I don't like that.
Bad job. Disney, please stop.
Please stop.
If you're gonna do that, again, in theory, technology like that, great idea. That solves a lot of really difficult technical problems with pulling off that illusion. However, do better. It just looks so bad. I hate it. It's so cheesy and, like, uncanny and not in a spooky ghost way. It's just like...
And I have seen the other... Disney has some of the, like, top 10 list of most advanced animatronics in the world.
Yeah.
So I know that you can make an animatronic.
I know that you can do better.
That has and acts and speaks words. Like,
and
I know that you can.
that it's a lot of work, but like,
have.
listen, if you spent all that time and money making a mother freaking Johnny Depp lookalike for the Pirates ride multiple times, he's in the ride multiple times. You wasted all that money on Johnny Depp, and you're not going to do it for Constance,
it's
the
either
Attic
the
Bride.
Tokyo or the Shanghai Disney, but their Pirates of the Caribbean ride is it's the movie franchise.
Oh, I love that. So it's all
just,
the animatronics are character. Okay, see? Disney!
It's Davy Jones right up in there.
Make me.
He's got a big boat.
Good for him.
Yeah.
Disney, please. You made Davy Jones. Make me a Constance.
Make
what
me
are
Constance
you doing?
Hatchway. What are you doing?
Doing?
Have you seen the dragon under in the Paris Disney France, Disney Paris?
No.
Their castle is also a walkthrough.
Okay, fun.
And
very fun.
Underneath it is a dragon's lair, and there is a straight up dragon, one of the most advanced animatronics in the world.
You love to see it.
The way it moves, that's it. I simply decide to pass away.
Nothing better. I decide to pass away. Nothing better.
And they're currently,
yes.
I think, I don't know what the number is anymore, but last I checked, it was like top 5 in the Pandora update that they did.
Yes.
With the river ride.
Yeah, I
the
know exactly
animatronic,
what you're talking about.
It moves like a human. It moves like a human.
It is shocking.
It is one of the most advanced animatronics in the world.
It's so realistic. It's so beautiful. And you know how I feel about Avatar Blue People.
I know.
Avatar Blue People is dead to me. I literally could not care less. However, Disney World did one interesting thing.
Stunning.
It's incredible. That animatronic specifically, and it's the only interesting part of the ride, unfortunately. Well, they did some other cool stuff, but it's like the pinnacle, and when you see it, it's breathtaking. I haven't been on the ride, but I've watched video of it because what else are you gonna do? Very cool. So anyway, Disney, where is my Constance?
I will allow them to do some projection work to make an axe magically appear. I'm fine with that.
Sure.
If you want to do projections for her arm and the axe appearing, whatever, but just give me the face, at least. Just give me the face.
Do anything. Do anything.
Anything.
I'm begging.
Please.
Yeah, no, so I'm annoyed. And then the what?
Little Leota, which I'm assuming you'll get to later.
Yeah, I will. I don't really have much to say about her, because, like, lore-wise, there's just not a ton. But, so yeah, the bride's face is very Uncanny Valley. I hate to see it. The bride's arm is also projected over her torso, and an axe, formulates in it from dust or whatever, and it's like, ooh, scary, women kill men. Oh my gosh, I'm terrified. So a lot of people were upset by that, not only because they thought it wasn't as scary, like, visually, which I will agree, the other brides are haunting to look at.
Dude, sleep
They're
paralysis
scary.
demon.
Yeah, exactly. Like, if I woke up in the middle of the night and I saw that, I would simply pass away. I would give up. But compare that to Constance. It is, like, menacing in a serial killer way.
Yeah. But, like, if
and
she's
a ghost. She is a ghost because everyone in the Haunted Mansion is a ghost. So, like, we know that she is dead, which I think actually ghost murder is scarier than, like...
I'm gonna agree with you there.
In that scenario, that is creepy. Like, that's,
it's
but
scary.
That's one of those things that, like, you have to think about it being creepy. If you just saw her on the street, you would be like...
Right.
Women be tripping. Or
women be tripping.
I don't know.
She's so pretty.
She's
like,
gorgeous.
If she asked me to do anything,
I'd do it.
I'd do it.
I'd do it. She wants to marry me and chop off my head. Go for it, girl.
Dude,
girl power.
Take all my money. Kill
girl
me,
power.
please. I'm asking for it.
The other thing I was gonna say, since you mentioned her appearance, her voice is creepy.
Yes.
They did a great job with that. And her face actor and her voice actor are two different people, which is kind of funny to me. But she's very menacing, and I like that. But
she is.
Like, again, do better.
Do better. Step 1.
And then, so here's the controversy with Miss Constance Hatchaway. So again, this was 2006. They closed the Haunted Mansion down for however long. It was a while. I think it was like a year and a half or something. Like, it was closed for a while. Reopen it. Boom. New attic. There's 2 controversies here, actually. So the controversy with the bride, they updated her. I don't know how many people actually thought it looked bad, because I think for 2006, that was pretty mind-blowing technology. For 2020, Ellie sitting here right now, just, like, back off. Like, who cares? But in 2006, I'm sure most people were like, wow, you know. But it was the story. So there is a conflict between the theme of the Haunted Mansion, which is kind of a joke. We as mortals are so terrified of death, but the ghosts, they don't care, and they're not here to scare us. They're just vibing.
Dude, they're just having a party.
So they don't care that we're there. Yeah, and they're like, come join us, but it's not in a threatening way. I mean, it's threatening to us because we don't want to die, but to them, they're not doing it because they want to be, like, evil. They're doing it because they're like, death is fun, death is fine, what are you stupid humans afraid of? Like, it's supposed to be mocking our fear of death, right? So then you get to the attic. Not only is this crossover lore with her supposedly being connected to the stretching room a controversial choice that people were not happy with, her whole theme of being this Black Widow killer killing her husbands for money is the purpose of it. Doesn't really work because it interrupts that theme of, like, the Haunted Mansion is spooky. There are some great visual illusions that are creepy, but it is still a light-hearted ride.
It is, which is exactly what Mark was going for.
That's what Mark said.
And that's why we started off with Claude, scary, ominous,
spooky,
empty house sets, and then fun screaming song.
Yeah, and then we moved to grim grinning ghosts, and all of a sudden you're like, this is a party.
It's a party.
Right? Constance ruins the vibe for some people. I had never even considered this until I read about this earlier. I was like, oh, yeah, that totally doesn't fit. I mean, it fits to me because I was so young when the change happened. I was like, Haunted Mansion, baby, best ride. I don't care what's going on.
Yeah, I don't care what's going on.
But I do understand why people would be upset about that, because she is threatening. And it's unclear if she's threatening you. I guess if you're like, 30-something white dude, watch your neck.
Yeah, with money. You have to have money.
If you got some cash, then Constance said it's on site. But, like, otherwise, for the rest of us, it's like, oh no, she kills men? Like, I'm so scared. I'm not scared.
I'm not scared.
You go, girl. Feminism. Feminism for the win.
Yeah, for sure.
And you know what? I would like them to update her look again to make her scarier looking. Because here's my proposal for the Haunted Mansion attic. All right, here's how you fix everything.
All right,
you go all the way. So they went creepier in, like, a tonal way, not visually necessarily. I would like them to make her visually scary again. Okay, however they decide to do that, I don't really know if I trust them because they did a bad job before.
Okay,
but make her the malevolent spirit that is set apart from all the others.
Yes.
Like, make her literally the ghost that they locked in the attic because no one else wants to deal with her. That would be so much more interesting. So, Constance, the controversy continues. And then, I was going to talk about Phantom Manor. for a hot second. Phantom Manor is the haunted mansion of Disneyland Paris.
I love Phantom Manor. Dude, I am all up on that lore.
Phantom Manor, and I'm not even joking when I say this, is the only reason that I would willingly step foot in the country of France. Now, I will have to listen to French be spoken in order to get there. That is too bad. That's too bad for me.
I'm
but
so
it's
sorry.
something I'm willing to put up with to see this freaking Phantom. Now, Phantom Manor was closed for a long time, and it reopened last year because they also updated it. It was their big 2019 update where they brought back the original music, because they had original music, and then they changed the soundtrack, and they changed it back, which is kind of fun. And they changed the storyline significantly now, again, with the whole bride thing. Did Disney Imagineers hate women? Wait a second. I'm thinking thoughts. Oh, so many thoughts just came to my head. Okay.
It all stems from Ken Anderson.
The original Phantom Manor plot, and I'm fuzzy on the details, but it centered around a woman, a human woman, whose name, I don't know.
Melanie.
Okay. Do you want to talk about Phantom Manor? Because I'm not going to let you, because this is my story.
It's fine. Take it away. Take it away.
This is no context. Ellie tries to describe the plot of Phantom Manor and gets it wrong, and Emma judges her. Yeah, so Henry is the dad, and Melanie is the daughter, and, like, the original story... And again, it's left kind of vague, it's left kind of open, but the original story... tragedy befell their family when, so he owned the mining town of... What's it called? Something Gulch?
Thunder Mesa.
Thunder Mesa, yes, thank you. Thunder Mesa, which, hey, seeing an American Western-themed land in France is like, that will never not be funny to me. That is hilarious. I hate looking at it.
I know.
So anyway, Melanie is engaged to be married to some guy. Well, okay, he died, but it's implied that, like, maybe he killed himself or was murdered. So this wasn't a natural death, I'm pretty sure. Again, it's not super clear, but they lose all their money somehow.
Mm-hmm.
Again, not clear how. And
Never clear.
Henry, the father, unalives himself. You hate to see it. So then Melanie is left.
Mm-hmm.
You're kind of following her, and you go in, like, catacombs under the mansion, and it's so creepy. Phantom Manor is much darker and eerier than the Haunted Mansion.
When you do go... Because in the Haunted Mansion, everywhere else, you leave the attic and you go into the graveyard. In Phantom Manor, you leave the house and you go underground underneath Thunder Mesa, and it's... So you know Tim Burton's The Corpse Bride?
The best film, absolutely.
The best film. They go underground and it's like a whole new world. You know, they're like, Victor ends up in the underworld of the dead and it's like a whole new place, right?
Absolutely.
So it's kind of that vibe, except that it's Thunder Mesa if everyone was dead. It's and all these dead people.
You know what? You're right, though. It is more colorful.
It is.
And it's more lively.
Mm-hmm.
Even though they dead. And above ground, upstairs, is where it's sad. Because Melanie is just wandering, but she's also being stalked by this phantom. And he's like a villain character, but it's unclear who he is and what his goal is. Like, is he trying to kill her?
It's unclear whether it's the ghost of her dad or not.
Exactly. Is he, like, her dead fiance trying to, like, get back to her? Is it her dead dad trying to reunite his family? Is it just some guy being creepy? But
tag yourself, I'm some creepy guy.
Tag yourself, I'm a dead dad.
Nice.
Thank you. But the thing about Phantom Manor, with the new storyline, and again, this was controversial because I'm, like, wondering now, do the Haunted Mansion Imagineers have a problem with women? The bride is the villain. So instead of seeing the Phantom creeping around, the Phantom is still there because it's Phantom Manor.
So this is the redo that they did.
This is
now,
the 2019
the
change. Yes,
this is
when
the
they
new
reopened.
One?
This is the new one.
Interesting.
Instead of seeing the Phantom shadow like overhead when you're getting on the ride or whatever, I don't remember when that happens, but you like see him. It's the foreshadowing of what's to come, literally. You see her instead, just walking, and you're like, okay, hey, girl. And
hey,
then
Melanie.
it's a similar thing. It's like she did a murder. She, like, it's implied that she, I think, killed her husband, or I don't think she killed her family. Maybe she did. That'd be kind of fun. I don't know. So, on one hand, women murder fun. That's just like, you know, but at the same time, it feels kind of cheap because it's like, you know what's really scary? When women are violent. It's like, I mean, I guess it's scary when anyone's violent, but like, men are monsters. Like,
yeah, but
statistically speaking.
It's scarier to me if a man is running at me than a woman.
If a woman was running at me with an axe, I'd be like, okay.
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Yeah, not saying okay as in like dismissively. I'm like, okay, I guess I'm dying now because, like, you know, girl power. No, not
girl
really.
Power.
It's just more like
women empowerment.
It's just one of those things where it's like, again, statistically, men are much more violent than women.
Yes.
And men are more violent to women.
Yep.
So when women are violent and that's used as like a scary plot line, it's like, really, guys? Like, is this the storyline we want to commit to? It feels cheap. So again, I haven't seen the updated version. I'm gonna watch it. I can't speak on if that's actually how the ride feels to me, but that's what other people were talking about, is how this tonal shift from this woman is the forlorn, heartbroken bride,
right,
who is alone. Her family's dead, her fiance's dead, and this Phantom is stalking her, and it's unclear to us and to her if he is a threat or not, because we don't know if it's her dead dad.
Interesting.
But in this new one, she is the villain going through, and again, there were other changes that I'm not sure what they were, because that was the main one that people were talking about online. But people were not happy. And I'm not sure why. I don't know if it is a feminist issue that people are like, stop making women the villains for cheap gags.
Right.
Or if it was an actual, like, plot issue, like, the other plot was so much better than whatever this is. Disney really said, women bad.
No,
so yeah, I'm gonna watch Phantom Manor and see how I feel about it afterwards. But that's the bride controversy for that. But otherwise, I think the attic scene redux is exquisite.
I love it.
They added a ton of stuff. It has a ton of little fun references. There's like a little ceramic figurine of Constance. It's like a wedding cake topper kind of. And the groom is on his side and his little ceramic head fell off. Like, stuff like that is just really fun.
There's such great detail in there, and it's so cool.
It's really cool. Now, one other thing that's cool about the attic. Here we go. This is a cult classic that disappeared for so long that some people thought that they dreamt it up and it wasn't a real character. Listeners and nemesis, welcome to Ellie Talks About the Hatbox Ghost. So, the Hatbox Ghost is best character, best guy, best animatronic.
I love him.
Favorite thing I've ever seen in my life, ever. I'm obsessed with the Hatbox Ghost.
I love him.
The Hatbox Ghost was an animatronic that was in the Haunted Mansion for like less than a year when it first opened. He was only there for a hot minute, and the visual illusion that he had is he was a skeletal, hunched over figure with bent legs, and he had a cane in one hand that like shook, which is kind of fun. Like his hand was shaky holding the cane. It was set in like a pivot thing in the bottom of the cane in the floor. And then in his other hand, he was holding a big hat box. and his head would disappear into darkness and reappear in the Hatbox, and that would switch off back and forth as people rode through. Now, they got rid of the Hatbox Ghost. People had conspiracies about this for years and years. It has been confirmed. There was no crazy conspiracy. It was the lighting in the attic at the time. The light from the previous room poured into the attic, and he's right by the entrance. He's the first thing you see when you come into the attic. And so the gag didn't work because they did their little smoke and mirrors. But the light was interrupting it, and so sometimes you wouldn't be able to see the head in either his face or the Hatbox.
Or you would see both.
Or you would see both at the same time, which is not as fun. It kind of ruins the whole deal.
I do like the idea of this guy carrying a Hatbox with a head in it that looks like his head.
Yeah, that's fun.
That's cute.
That's just fun, yeah. So the Hatbox originally was connected somehow to the bride, although he was in the attic for so short a time that it was like, okay. But that was where the concept of the bride being into decapitation came from. And they couldn't move him because the animatronic stuff is built into the floor of that room. You can't just like shift that around. So they pulled him out and they made plans to put him back in eventually. Well, the problem with that, cut to 46 years later, Hatbox Ghost was gone for 46 years. He was gone for so long, like I said, when the internet came around, people were like, hey, did I imagine this, or was there a guy that looked like this in the Haunted Mansion? And other people were like, hey, I remember that from my childhood. And then all of a sudden people realized the Hatbox Ghost was a real thing. That wasn't just something everyone collectively fever dream imagined.
Yeah, joint hallucination.
Exactly. He's very cool. Now, his image is used in a lot of the old Haunted Mansion, like, marketing material and advertising. He's on posters. He's in books. You see him in illustrations. There are photos of him with Yale Gracie. Yale is holding the reflective image of the Hatbox Ghost to show how the trick works, which is really fun. And so those were in a magazine, like, forever ago, and then the Hatbox Ghost was gone, so everyone was like, where did this guy go? Like, he's just gone now. So he became kind of a cult icon after his disappearance. And then Disney said, we're updating the Haunted Mansion, and we're gonna reopen it in 2015. I wonder what's gonna happen. And they didn't say for sure, I don't think. But every time they renovated the Haunted Mansion,
everyone was like,
is he coming back?
Is he coming back? Where's my boy? Where's my boy?
Where's my boy?
Where's my boy?
Okay.
He's back.
So Disney was like, we're going to update the Haunted Mansion. I wonder what's going to change. And everyone had been strung along by Disney that everyone was like, I'm so over this waiting for the Hatbox Ghost. It's never going to happen. If it was going to happen, it would have happened like 20 years ago. It's not happening. We're over it. And then the hype was so high around the reopening of the Haunted Mansion in 2015. Like, people were waiting for like 2 hours before the park opened, and then they go inside, and the line for the Haunted Mansion was like the longest it had ever been to get back inside that freaking Haunted Mansion. And they go in, and who's the first one you see when you go into the attic? Mamma mia! It's the Hatbox Ghost. So then he was back. Baby back and ready for action. And he looks amazing.
He's stunning.
Easily my favorite part of the Haunted Mansion now, because the animatronic is exquisite, and they fixed all the technology that they had issues with before, so now they're able to do the Hatbox Ghost gag without the former room being an issue. It's delightful. So now, you know, it's a huge deal, and people were losing their minds and like celebrating the Hatbox Ghost making a triumphant mysterious secret return to the Haunted Mansion. Now, the Hatbox Ghost, while he does share the attic with the bride, he is in his own little separate nook.
Yes.
To separate him from the actual attic. And there is no clear connection story-wise to the bride anymore. The connection was vague before, but now it's like there's none. He's just his own little thing, and it is incredibly fun. And I think he's like one of the most iconic, besides, of course, the hitchhiking ghosts, Ezra, Phineas, and Gus, who you see at the end of the ride.
I love them.
Coming out of the graveyard, the three of them animatronics are in a window, and they're hitchhiking with their little thumbs out, and then you go into the Hall of Mirrors, and you see them reflected sitting in your doom buggy, and they are hitchhiking to go home with you, which is very fun.
It's very cute.
Let me ruin the hitchhiking ghosts for you and tell you the lore. Now, Doom Buggies has everything and more. There is something called the Haunted Mansion Ghost Gallery on their website.
Mm-hmm.
Cast members are the original tale tellers of these. So, this started up in the 1980s. Cast members started making up stories for the different ghosts that were canonically in the Haunted Mansion.
Mm-hmm.
So, any ghosts that didn't have names, they would give names and backstories. Ghosts that did have names, they started making up stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Now, none of this is official. Some of these are very creative interpretations of these various characters. Some of these are like winks to other Disney history, which is really fun. There was a cast member publication called West Side Attractions, which is really fun, and sometimes they would print the cast member stories of these like ghosts in the magazine. So yeah, we have all these stories of these ghosts, and again, these aren't canon. Here's what Doom Buggies says about the hitchhiking ghosts themselves.
Okay.
Also notable is the fact that the Disney parks and eventually Walt Disney Imagineering itself paid homage to these stories by officially naming the hitchhiking ghost characters Gus, Phineas, and Ezra, names which had been recorded in the cast members' ghost gallery. So, those three characters specifically were made canon. Their names, right? Their actual backgrounds, not canon, and TBH, I hope they aren't, because this is freaking grim and kind of upsetting. Okay, so here's the story according to a cast member from the 1980s.
Cool, I'm ready.
Ezra is the very tall, very skinny, almost skeletal-looking hitchhiking ghost. Okay,
yes, he's
bald
the one
on
I
top.
hope comes home with me every time I ride it.
Yeah, I love that guy. This is just the worst. So, Ezra, Phineas, and Gus all met each other in a mental institution. They were institutionalized together. Yeah, they were in like this asylum together.
Oh, to be in love in an asylum.
Yeah, they became friends in the asylum and decided they were going to help each other escape, which they successfully did. How did they get to the asylum, you may ask? Well, there's no official story on how Gus got to the asylum. A cast member made Gus a Gracie. So he's a member of the Gracie family, which is interesting.
That is interesting.
And there's no word on what he did. But for Ezra was a voyeur. So he would get his skinny little body climbing up trees and peep on women. He had a specific fetish for fat women.
Never mind, I don't want him to come home with me anymore.
What the heck? So this is not canon. Again, I would like to reiterate, and I'm glad it's not, because this is just the worst.
Okay, choosing not to believe he is coming home with me.
No, we should write our own. We should write our own hitchhiking ghost stories. Well, let me finish telling you what... It just gets worse. Phineas is a snake oil salesman, So he started as like a traveling salesman, but he did poorly, so he just started buying up stuff and reselling it as like miracle drugs or whatever.
Nice.
It's very like early 1900s. They were both tried for their crimes and pled insanity. Phineas got arrested because he sold I think it was a miracle hair growth, or it was like a potion of youth to like the chief of police in the town that he was in. But the potion that he, like the concoction he gave this guy, raised his voice like 2 octaves, and he was so mad about it, dirty cops, that he threw him away in jail.
Yeah,
so they were in the asylum together. The 3 of them make a plan to escape. This is kind of funny. Ezra sneaks through the bars because he's so skinny and steals keys to get them out, and then they leave.
That's me.
Now, they're hitchhiking together, right? So that's where the hitchhiking part comes from. They're hitchhiking from place to place after they leave the asylum because they don't really have anywhere to go. Except for Gus, technically could go back to Gracie Manor, but he doesn't want to for whatever reason. They end up at a carnival. This has very something wicked this way comes energy. And they all die in ironic ways. I didn't write down how they all died because it was just so, like, gross to me that I was like, whatever. So yeah, I'm not gonna specify how they die because it's like kind of problematic for 2020 standards, and again, this isn't canon, so there's no reason for anyone to like know this. But how the hitchhiking ghosts end up at the haunted mansion, Gus goes home after his homies die, rip, and something happens that Leota decides to curse and confine Gus to the mansion for the rest of his life and eternity after death, so he can never leave again even when he dies. But she still takes pity on him, and as recompense kind of for this punishment, she summons his 2 hitchhiking ghost friends, and they all live in the mansion together.
Oh, that's cute.
So that part is nice, I guess,
Yeah,
but the rest of it is just roommates. Like, I want to end my life. The one thing I do like about this, though, is that Gus, who is the short one, right?
Yes. He's the short one with the ball and chain.
Yeah, so him being a prisoner, that makes sense. That's what prisoners wore. And he's wearing, like, kind of rags looking.
Yes.
He's wearing plain clothes,
I
right?
personally don't think that they're from the same time period, like from the same time or place.
I don't either.
Because why would they need to be? Why would they need to be?
They're all ghosts.
They're all ghosts.
They can meet
I like
whenever.
the idea that they were all living their separate lives, never knew each other, didn't know of each other, all died, somehow ended up at the haunted mansion, and they're like, hey, y'all want to hang?
Y'all want to hang?
And then they're homies now.
I see them as kind of like mischievous ghosts that want to leave the mansion. Like, they're always trying to hitchhike out with humans, right?
I think that it's...
So the 3 of them are mischievous and they have similar goals, and I like the idea. I like your concept of them not being from the same time periods.
Yeah. I don't think they're the same.
I'm gonna make a little guess here, because the ghosts in the haunted mansion are from all different times, like all the way back to, like, there are ghosts that look like,
we had a mummy in there.
There's a mummy. There's a ghost that looks Roman. There are ghosts that are wearing like Revolutionary War clothes, and ghosts that are, and then there's ghosts that look more Vikings. Modern according to like the time that Gracie Manor was built, which is like the 1800s, and then through the 1900s. Like, that makes sense to me. So,
it makes sense.
I think Phineas is probably from like the 1930s, like post-depression era. But he seems to be, like, his clothes imply that he was doing well for himself before he died.
Yeah,
so.
Phineas gives off banker vibes.
He gives off banker vibes, yeah.
Thank you.
Ezra, 1800s Victorian period very much. And then Gus, I don't know, the ball and chain thing is pretty old school, so
It is very old school.
What, like late 1700s, early 1800s? Pre-Victorian, pre-industrial revolution.
Yeah.
I don't know what he did.
I don't know what he did either.
But maybe he was like a Pirates of the Caribbean prisoner, because they have balls and chains in...
Oh my gosh. Ellie. That's just another connection. They're connected.
Oh, that's true.
Pirates of
There
the
are multiple
Caribbean,
connections.
the Haunted Mansion, and Tom Sawyer Island are all connected.
Confirmed. We
Wow.
just confirmed it because of a ball and chain.
I just confirmed it. Disney has not.
Fair.
They're cowards.
Disney are cowards, and they won't give me an updated Constance, and they won't give me a solid connection on Pirates, Haunted Mansion, and Tom Sawyer's Island.
Yes.
Anyway,
you have more?
The only thing that I have, that is all of the ghosts from the Haunted Mansion that I cared to talk about. They're 999. You don't
And you
see
could be next.
999 in the Haunted Mansion because there's only so many animatronics you can have in one ride, right? But there are lots of ghosts, lots of animatronics. It's delightful. It's probably my favorite ride. I ride it a million times and I never get tired of it.
I never
It's
get
just
sick
fun.
of it.
And it's great on a hot day. You go, like, just lay back and, like, freaking fall asleep in the doom buggy in the dark with the air conditioning. It's great.
Yeah, and I literally, I'll listen to that organ, that Haunted Mansion Otherworldly Concerto.
Oh, yeah.
All
I
the
have
time. All the time. It starts to whip around 2 to 3 minutes. That's when it, like, that
the
organ.
ballroom Grim Grinning Ghosts rendition.
Yep.
On the organ.
Yeah, on the organ.
When they make it like a waltz. You love to see
Exactly.
it. You love to hear it.
Really quick, fun fact about the organ.
Okay.
So, the organ in the Haunted Mansion in the ballroom is the organ from the 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea that they then turned into the Finding Nemo submarines. So 20,000 Leagues does not exist at Disneyland anymore, unfortunately.
That's fun. Another fun fact about, this is a fun fact that people who are familiar with the Haunted Mansion will know, and you might think it's kind of normy, but I think it's just really fun. So, the thing separating the Doom Buggy track from the ballroom is this massive sheet of glass.
It's all one
continuous sheet of glass that they moved into the mansion when they built it, and they have not replaced it since because it would be almost impossible to do so.
You would have to take apart the whole roof and take it out with a crane.
And then somehow move a new sheet of glass in
and then
without shattering the whole thing.
Without breaking things.
Yeah,
so.
It's like 30 feet tall or something insane.
Dude, yeah, it's huge.
Big. Yeah, it's big. So, that being said, anything happens to that glass, they are not going to be able to replace it without literally tearing the ride apart, which would be crazy. But a mysterious thing happened. To this day, unsolved mystery. No one knows how or why. There is a crack in the glass from a gunshot that someone just shot a gun. Well, they don't know who. He shot a gun. He shot a freaking gun. Wait, do they know who it is?
Nope.
But there is a crack in the glass.
Okay, yes.
From a gun being shot through the glass pane, and they know that it was a gun because they found a bullet.
Dang.
In the wall. But here's the thing. No one knew.
Nope.
Until one day a cast member realized there's a hole in the glass. But, like I said, they couldn't replace it, so they stuck a plastic toy spider over the hole, and it's just, like, there. So you can see it when you go on the ride. It's very fun, and you're like, hey!
The way that the glass had cracked looked like a cobweb.
A spider
web, like a cobweb enough to just be able to stick a spider on it and call it good.
Yeah. So my last comment about the Haunted Mansion, I wanted to talk about Mystic Manor briefly. Mystic Manor is
Very fun.
the Haunted Mansion that's in Hong Kong Disney. So it's in China, right? Chinese superstition and like culture in regards to death is much different than American and even like European, like Western traditions. They have, I think, a lot more respect for the dead.
Yeah.
One website that I read was like, they say, you know, we believe our ancestors' spirits are there, we respect them, but we don't want to bother them at all because that's scary or whatever.
That is so funny.
Coming up with a way to do the Haunted Mansion in a country that has such a different view of death.
It's hard.
It's tough, right? Well,
yeah.
It's tough in the sense that they had to write something different.
Yeah.
Do your jobs, Disney.
Do your jobs, Disney.
So they did, and I from what I've seen, I think it's really cool.
It's very cool, and it's trackless. You know I love a trackless ride system.
I didn't know that. I didn't remember that was a thing.
Yeah.
That's tight.
Mm-hmm.
How does trackless system work?
I don't know.
It's magic.
It's magic.
It's magic.
I don't know how it works, but I love watching it.
Yeah, so the thing that the Imagineers wanted to focus on with Mystic Manor, because it was going to be, the focus wasn't going to be on the spooky ghosts and the haunted and the graveyards and everything like that. It wasn't going to be focused on death, so they took on the challenge to make it illusion-based, which is really fun. So the house, there's this little monkey. His name is Alfred.
He's so cute.
Very cute. And he accidentally opens this magic music box. Mm-hmm. Now, the music on this ride is composed by none other than my king, Danny Elfman.
You love to see it.
My favorite guy. I listened to a little bit of it before we recorded, and I was like, just
dude,
the
whips.
Vibes.
It whips.
Immaculate. Yeah. But the music box opens, and it's like the soundtrack is pretty integral to the ride experience. But it's magic. So the whole manor is possessed by this magic that makes all of the inanimate objects come to life. And then at the end, you know, Alfred the monkey closes the music box and everything's fine. And then his owner guy, who you meet at the beginning, comes back in, and it's like nothing happened. It's like very, you know.
It's very cute.
It's cute.
It's very Phineas and Ferb.
It's very Phineas and Ferb, and the mansion design is stunning. It's just
beautiful.
The exterior and the interior are just beautiful. So it's
gorgeous.
A lot more whimsical, I think, than the Haunted Mansion, where the Haunted Mansion is spooky and fun. This is much more like magical and almost fantasy based, which is really cool. So I thought that was a fun difference. You know, seeing that cultural shift. How do we do a Haunted Mansion in an Eastern country that has such a different view on death and spirits than Americans do?
Right.
And that is everything that I wanted to say about Le Haunted Mansion.
Now, tell me. I need to know. Last.
Okay.
Very last thought.
Okay.
Top 3 Haunted Mansion ghosts. Go.
Okay, so I'm going to start with number 3 and work my way up. I'm coming up with this on the fly because I genuinely, this is tough.
That's fine. I haven't thought about it either.
Okay, number 3, I'm going to say, I want to say the Duelists. So number 3, Duelists. Okay.
Yep.
Number 2, Little Leota. I forgot about her. Little Leota is a miniature version of Madame Leota. She is canonically meant to be a miniature Madame Leota. Her face is modeled after the actress who played Madame Leota, Leota Toombs.
Leota Toombs.
I think that Little Leota has been updated to be the voice of the bride, telling you to hurry back.
I think she has.
Which is fine, I guess.
Fine.
I don't know. I like Little Leota, but that's fine. But she was meant to be Madame Leota The reason she's called Little Leota, though, if you haven't ridden the Haunted Mansion, it's this tiny figurine.
It's a forced perspective kind of thing.
Yeah, so she looks really far away, but she's just really small, and it's really kind of funny.
And it looks like she's
really
standing in a crypt.
So we love Little Leota. So yeah, number 2, Little Leota, and I'm gonna say pre-Constance Little Leota.
Okay.
I don't care to see the bride again.
I'll take that.
Even though I do like the bride just fine, I'm gonna say Little Leota number 2. Okay. Number 1. Is this even a surprise? Hatbox Ghost, best ghost. How could you even believe that any other ghost is better than him?
Okay.
You can't.
Yeah.
Unless you're about to say your number 1 is a different ghost, in which case, okay, it's time to fight.
So my number 3 is the pianist, the ghost phantom
the shadow
pianist.
pianist
yes, the shadow
in the
pianist.
attic. Yes. Very
We love
cool.
to see it. We love to see it. Or alternatively, the ghost playing the organ because like the power.
That
the power
was
is there.
I had a hard time choosing between the duelist and the organist because the organist is very cool.
The power is there. Second, now it's a tie between the Hatbox Ghost and Ezra. Hatbox Ghost, I love him. I also love Ezra.
Ezra, yeah.
You know.
I know you love Ezra.
Number 1 favorite ghost? The man himself, the ghost host. I love him.
I do like seeing the body hanging from the stretching room is like one of my favorite visuals in the entire ride. It's so scary. And that is supposed to be the ghost host's body. So, but his voice is incredible.
It either used to be or Walt wanted it to be, or they used some form of audio from Vincent Price.
So the Vincent Price thing, the ghost host is not Vincent Price. Obviously, you can tell.
It's not Vincent Price.
Disney did use audio of Vincent Price's voice.
They did.
Now, I don't know what they used it for because
it was
not
laugh.
in the Haunted Mansion. Oh, that's nice.
I think it was the ghost host laugh. I think that's what it was.
Okay, they said, "Hey, ghost host, you suck. Your laugh sucks.
You're not allowed to laugh,
We're gonna make
bud.
Vincent do your laugh.
Shut your mouth.
Get out of here.
No laughing
shut
here.
Up. Illegal.
It's
they
Vincent
canceled
time.
the ghost host.
It's Price
Vincent
time.
It's Price time.
It's Price time, baby.
The Vincent Price is right. I'll be here all week.
Not when I walk to your house in 2 minutes and kill you.
And kill me. Yeah, okay, that's valid. So anyway, Vincent Price's voice, though, so this was actually, I wasn't going to mention this because it wasn't relevant, but in the Phantom Manor 2019 update, the audio that they use for the ghost host is Vincent Price. And they got a French voice actor who sounded like Vincent Price to do the French translation of the ghost host voice.
I love Vincent.
Yeah. But again, I don't know what they originally used it in because Vincent Price was very dead before Paris, right?
Pretty sure.
Okay, Google. When did Vincent Price die?
Never. He never died.
On October 25th, 1993.
Oh.
Interesting, that's later than I thought.
When did Disneyland Paris's Phantom Manor open?
April 12th, 1992. According to some information I found on Wikipedia.
Oh, so maybe, okay. Wow.
Maybe.
Okay, so he did do the original voice. So, okay, that's where that came from. So Vincent Price did the original voice. When they updated Phantom Manor the first time, they changed it. They took it away. Dang. But in the reopening in 2019, they put his voice back, remastered, and then got a French voice that sounded like his.
Yeah, it's Vinny time.
It's always Vincent Price time.
It's always rent-free in my brain.
Anyway, that's the Haunted Mansion, dude. Lore, technology. We are both huge fans of Disney ride history.
Obviously.
We're fans of Disney history in general, but we both especially love Disney ride history. Just, there's something so magical about finding out how these experiences from our childhood work, and it just makes me appreciate the experience more.
It just makes me so happy. Like, before we recorded this is when you know that not only am I like a mechanical tech nerd, but also Disneyland nerd, is I was literally like shaking with excitement before we recorded this just to talk about the Omnimover ride system.
We love the Omnimover ride system.
You know I love it. You know I love it.
All my homies love the Omnimover.
And the People Mover. You know we love the People Mover too.
All my homies love the People Mover. Oh my gosh. Hey, justice for the People Mover. Justice for Constance Hatchaway. Honestly. Disney, I am standing by waiting for your response.
Oh my goodness. Okay, well, that's it.
That's it. We did it.
We did it.
Thank you all so much for listening to us ramble about the Haunted Mansion for, I don't know, entirely too long.
Yes.
We will come back with another Out of Character episode for the end of October, the end of our No Contextober Halloween specials, where we will be talking about the Scooby-Doo animated film series.
Yeah, Scooby-Doo Cinematic Universe.
Scooby-Doo Cinematic Universe, the Skoo, as they say.
Oh, don't.
Stikoo.
No, my body had a bad reaction to you saying that.
Yeah. That's so valid because I hated saying it. Boy howdy, when I tell you I came out of my mouth and I immediately regretted it.
Please don't do that again.
I'm gonna probably do it again, so you'll hear me talk about the Stikoo in our next Out of Character episode. But until then, follow us on Twitter and Instagram at PodNoContext.
I think that's it.
And watch out for 999 Happy Haunts because you might be the 1000th. Thank you, everyone. See you in the next one.